Good morning, Rabbi Sai. L'ilo nishmasi b'miros bas Mordechai. Today, I'm very excited. I got a serious show and tell coming up, but it's all the way at the end of this year. So if you can't make it to like 8 o'clock-ish, today you have to do a yotzim and a klal and stick around. It's gonna be it's gonna put the line away. You're gonna say, where were you during this show and tell? What part are you? Okay. Hello, Rebbe Eli. I wanted to give you nachas. I've been doing the daf for 215 days. And a few weeks ago, the first person I got to do your daf has reached 100. Took him 115 days to get a guy, but he got a guy and he reached 100. Unbelievable. Mazel tov to Ahron Fraiman, grandson of Rabbi Reisman. He's been my best friend since we were 2. And he would love a shout out. By the way, I'm 14. And I listen to your shiurim every night. And live in Edison, New Jersey with love and much HaKaras HaTov, Shmuel Jaffe. Dear Eli Shlita, Edmar, MDY. Attaches a picture of myself and Rav Mati Grunberg, aka OU user, at the recent OU Kashrus conference in Tarrytown, New York, with the best wishes of hatzlacha, Zarach Spiro, Passaic, New Jersey. We're not doing a lot of emails today because we got to jump into this and we got to get to this show and tell. Dear Rebbe Eli, thank you very much for your fun, entertaining, and informative shiurim. Baruch Hashem, I don't have any sob stories to share, like not learning for the past 30 years because I'm just 25, or have never made a seam in my life, etc. I do want to share with you that thanks to you being busy with Molandi and others learning on the plane, I recently watched 7 shiurim on my long flight home. Sorry, no pics. Last day I lived close to the Target store. I can get you your deodorant and stuff. I'll be visiting Eretz Yisrael in 2 weeks. Best wishes, your Talmud Avrami. Nah, I didn't need deodorant. That I could get on Amazon, whatever. I want to go to Target. There's a certain geschmack walking through the aisles. This is from Mordechai Sapaznik. And he says that there was a little bit of a mistake, and he's right, I believe, that it says there was a kahén, I see in Mefurish, there's a kahén married to a woman, and then it says she's a Bas Yisrael. The daughter is a Bas Kahén, and that's why the Kahén Gadol, the little kid, ruins it for her because she really is the daughter of a Kahén. She could be eating Truma, but because she has a descendant, a Kahén Gadol, or could be a Kahén Gadol, that little guy ruins it for her, whereas the Mamzer helps her. Today is the 31st day of the Omer. The Koilel is sponsored Lzchus Shiduchim. Now, I got a text. I didn't back it up, but this person that sponsored, that's on the bottom. That's what it is. Okay, we'll get there. So remember this. The guy is sponsoring Lzchus Shiduchim, anonymous. So, wואלערשטיין, zechus by his kids. Ahron Fraiman, Lzchus, continuing parnasah, siyadta, dishmaya, and hatzlacha to Rebbe Eli. I thought that was over. No? The Boyer family, Eli Weinberg A, dear friend of MDY. The Wolkenstein family, in Torah, in Kemach, in Torah. By the Lock and Lebovic families, Lakewood, New Jersey, because Torah is the best segulah. Anonymously, Zechrya Bas Yosef. By the way, I kept my word. I donated to Reb Sruli. I did. He has proof. Very nice. How much? 360. But they send a beautiful email back for supporting Torah and increasing our batzas Torah in the world. Very nice. What? It's on my phone. All right. I don't think he reads it. No, he doesn't. He just says Lini Nishmas kind of stuff. I said in honor of Reb Sruli. Yisroel Helprin, Dora Helprin, Dora Helprin, 60 years as a mechaneches in New Haven, Connecticut. Yishkoyach Rabbi Yisroel. Where is he? Mordechai Sapaznik, Zech Nishmas, his great grandfather, Rabbi Yitzchok Blumenreich. Rabbi Yitzchok ben Rabbi Yisroel, Gershon, Zechus Algevrochem, his neshama having aliyah. By Simi Mandelbaum. Rabbi said, listen to this one. In appreciation to the anonymous uncle in honor of the engagement of his niece. And that's the uncle who sponsors the koilel Lzchus Shiduchim. Maybe one has to do with the other. By Sruli Bornstein. In honor of Reb Chaim Neger of Lakewood, a class act. Mazeh. Came in last night. Are you serious? The truth is, we could also do one and then put it in and say, Okay, Shirley Bornstein. Yishkoyach from Shirley Bornstein. I don't know who you are. No, but this is spelled differently. Bornstein, Bornstin, in honor of Chaim Nager of Lakewood, New Jersey. Lakewood, New Jersey, class act. Okay, Rabbi, say here we go. Some people complained that we're going too fast yesterday. I thought it was such an easy sugi, we'd go quick. We're going to go faster today. We are holding on the bottom of Ayin Amud Beis, in middle of a sugya. Obviously, everybody remembers what we were talking about yesterday, so we'll just continue from the middle of the teretz. We had like this. As you can see on the screen, it's kind of small because I went to a different format. I don't like this format. Oh, what? I didn't tell you. You set it up for me, so how would I tell you? I know, but you set it up for me. Okay. So there's a different type of, oh, you got to move it that way. I got it. Okay. It'll be a little messed up today. Givaldic. You know what? Nothing Yosef can't fix and post-edit. So it says like this. We have two limudim in blue. We have a Gzereshava, Taishav, and Sachir that teach us that somebody who's an Arel, who has by the way, we have to say a Mazel Tov to Reb Shimon Soloway. His daughter got engaged, so big Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. We have Gzer Shav, a Taishav Sachir, and that teaches us in red that a Arel doesn't eat Truma. We learn from Pesach to Truma. Yeah. What about Boy? Boy comes to be matter, the kid. If the kid is a Arel. By Pesach, if the kid is a Arel, then the father can't eat a carbon Pesach. But by Truma, it's different. We have a special Yitur. Boy, ask the Gemara, if you look at the chart, we do that wondrous stuff. Maybe it's Fakert, maybe it's B'nai Arel, goes for the Gzer Shava. So again, think about it. Logically, that's what the Rav is going to answer. Maybe your son is Aser and you're Mutter. If anything, you, the closer one, should be Aser and the son not. Okay. So the Gemara said, the reason why we learn it the original way, that we Aser Arel and Mater B'nai Arel, but not Aser B'nai Arel and Mater Arel, is because it's 2 against 1. Arel has two chumras and B'nai Arel only has 1 chumra. Shekei Maise Begufoi, Vanish Kares. If you don't do a bris milah on yourself, you chayav kares, and it's in your own body. Adarabah milah zcharav avada v'avalei rebush ken yeshno b'chol shah. You could have another son. You could buy another slave. Even if when you perform milah on yourself, that's it. It's a one-time thing, and that's it. We'll see later. The certain time in the midbar, maybe there's another time you had to do 2 milahs, but in general, 1 time and you're done. But if you have another son, you chayav again. Another son, another eved. Says the Gemara, hanach nefishin, 2 against 1 wins. Here we're holding 5 lines from the bottom. Without this idea, this concept of more 2 against 1, you can't say that your son is aser to eat truma if he doesn't have a bris milah, but you could eat truma if you don't have a bris milah. That makes no sense. Why? It doesn't hurt you, but somebody else's arla is going to hurt you. Makes no sense. Now that you're telling me that the word boy, in him, it's an exclusion. Boy, only over here. Boy, we have another pasuk. Why do I need the boy by the other pasuk? Ben Nechar. Says Gemara, top of Ayin Aleph. Boy, hamoras das poiselas. By carbon Pesach, when a person goes off the derech, he doesn't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's not allowed to eat from the carbon Pesach. Imagine, you're sitting at the Pesach Seder, you have unaffiliated people that are atheists, whatever. You're not allowed to give them carbon Pesach. We have to remember this. But when it comes to Meiser Sheni, going off the derech doesn't hurt. And how do we know this? From the word boy. Rabbi said, look what we're up to. Ayin Aleph, 70 daf into Yevamos. Everybody should pat themselves on the shoulder. It's an amazing accomplishment. Be'emes. Call R Eli. Why do you need the boy? Boy ein oichel, aval oichel hu b'matzah u'marar. This guy, boy, if he goes off the derech, he can't eat. he can eat meiser, korban pesach. Sorry, he'll still participate in the seder. He'll eat matzu marar. Shapsei Cohen from Beitar sent me an amazing story. Love this thing. Listen, you guys, you're gonna love it. Reb Chaim Kanevsky visits a Rebbe on Chalamayid, Sukkos, and he sees the Rebbe has matzah on his table. So he says, "My hi." So he says, "We are makbid on all the havaminas of the Gemara." So there's a havamina in the Gemara in Sukkah, tesvav, that we should compare Sukkah to Pesach. Whatever halachas you have on Pesach, you have in Sukkos. So says Reb Chaim Kanievsky, and he says it's a Ma'aseh Shaya. He says, well, there's a Gemara that says that maybe you have to do bris milah in your ear. How do you know not? So that's a havamina. So according to that havamina, you're an Arel. Arel is also matzah. So Mela, Gemara Yevamos Daf Ayin Aleph. Arel can't eat matzah. Mardik. Okay. Very good. Arel on the heart. Call Arel Yechom. Matzomar, Vitzrich lemichtav Arel, Vitzrich lemichtav kol benechar. I need this pasuk to tell me Arel and benechar di kazer rachmana Arel mishum demayis. If a person has an arla, it's disgusting, it's despised. Ava benechar, a guy that's off the derech, the loy mayis say malay. Vi kazer rachmana kol benechar mishum de ein lilo l'shamayim. Okay, he has a problem in his heart and his hashkafa. But what's wrong? A guy, his brothers, let's say, didn't have they died from a bris, so he doesn't have a bris, but he's a big Yerushalayim, he does everything properly, so he has a shtickle arla, it's a shtickle mo, it's a big deal. I'm a lie. Tzricha. Now, it says in the pasuk the word mimenu. So if we're going to say that the word boy is an exclusion, this boy, so mimenu is also an exclusion. Here, look at this pasuk for a second. Al toichlu mi menu, no? And then it says in pasuk yud, loisisiru mi menu, adaboykev anoisim mi menu. So according to your logic, that boy is an exclusion, so mi menu from it, and only this should also be an exclusion. Mi menu lamali, look at the Rabbi Rabbi Yitzchak. Enechanami. There's 3 mi menus. We're going to get there in 3 days. And Ayin Dalet is going to tell us what we learned from it. Omar Mar. So now we're going back to what we learned yesterday, so everybody knows it because it was easy, and we're going to go through this pretty quickly. We had Gzeir Shava, Toishav Esachir, from Truma to Pesach, and we learned from Pesach to Truma that a guy that doesn't have a bris milah, he cannot eat Truma. Rabbi Kiva says, Eino Tzarech, you don't need a Gzeir Shava. Hareyu Oimer Ish Ish. Here we go. Ish Ish Mizera Aroin. It's mamish tiny. I don't know what to do. We got to go back to the other format, no? Why are we doing this? I can fix it in post. No, but for me to read it off the screen, and for everybody on the screen, it's tiny. They want me to go portrait, not landscape. I don't know why. We got to talk about it after. So he has an extra word. It says Rebbe Kiva. Look, it says ish. Should say it once. Ish mizera Ahron v'utzarua. Why did it say ish ish? So the extra ish, l'rabbis is a arel, to say that an arel is asur to eat Truma. Maybe comes to exclude a person who lost one of the 7 relatives, and we said Oinen could eat Truma. We have a pasuk that's marba Oinen and says that Oinen could eat Truma. Who told you maybe the Chalzar is coming to say that somebody has the Arla could eat Truma. Ish ish. Well, we have a problem. On the one hand, it says v'chol zar. On the other hand, we have ish ish. Umar ra'isa. Once we're doing it here on the screen, you see we have ish ish to says that a RL is asur, and we have v'chol zar to tell us that a oinen is mutter. Maybe it's reverse. Maybe ish ish is the oinen, and the oilam is getting used to it already. I didn't hear any oohs, ahs. Umar ra'isa mistabra arelis havalei rabuye. It makes more sense to say that a RL is asur in Truma rather than to say that a Oinen is asur in Truma. Shekain, we had this yesterday. Masim, Krusim, Bidvar, Ho'eved. 4 things. That what? Mechusa Maiso, Maisa Begufo, you see in the chart, 4 things in red. There's a Maisa that you have to take, that takes place on the body of a human being. The Mila, Vanish Karetz, and if you don't do it, you're Chayav Karetz. V'yeshle Lefnei Dibur. and it existed by the time of Avraham Avinu before Matan Torah. Umila zchar v'avodav ma'keves, and that's an amazing halacha, that if your own son doesn't have a bris milah, you cannot eat from Korban Pesach. So you see, it's a much more chomer thing. It's a very chomer mitzvah, and therefore, now you can go back to the chart. Since it's so chomer, therefore, we say a RL cannot eat from this chomer thing. It's ma'akiv on other people, it's kares, all these things. So it makes sense that somebody that doesn't have bris milah should not be eating from it. Adarabba, Oinen also has 3 chumras. Aninos have a little rabbi sheken yeshna b'chol shah. Aninos can happen at any given time, unfortunately. Somebody can have any one of his relatives die at any given moment. And also women are chayv in aninos. And let's say somebody dies, he can't do anything about it. Whereas a bris milah, he takes a knife and he does the milah. Says the Gemara, Hanach Nefishin, it's 4. If you see, I added 1, 2, 3, 4 versus the 3 in blue. So the chumrah of Arla, of bris, is more of a chumrah than the chumrah of Einan. And therefore it wins out. And you say that somebody has an Arla should not be eating a Korban Pesach at all. Rav Omar, B'loy Hanach Nefishin, I don't have to, the same kind of thing that he said before, but for a different svara. You don't have to come on to what? Truma, correct. Rav Omar, B'loy Hanach Nefishin, Nami, Loimot Samris. Forget about 4 against 3. Omakro, Ish. What does a man have, a woman doesn't have? Bris. Now the Rebbe Kiva learns from the word ish. Everybody else, Rebbe Eliezer learns from Tosh v'Sachar Gzeir Shav. It says Tosh v'Sachar twice. And we said yesterday, the 2 words are extra with Mamish Mufna. It's a very strong Gzeir Shava because we have extra words that we have nothing to do with it. And we had 2 extra words. We gave Truma 1, and we took 1 for Pesach, and now it's a solid Gzeir Shava. Rebbe Kiva comes along and says, I don't need this Gzeir Shava, that's too strong. I have Ish, extra word. But Rebbe Kiva doesn't need Gzeir Shava. What is he going to do with the 2 extra words? A guy that has a milah. So the Torah says, somebody that has a arla shouldn't eat, but Muslims, they don't have arla, so could they eat? You invite somebody that has a guy that has a milah, like all the what do you call them? The English aristocrats. They always used to have milah from even Yidden. What? The royal family, Narayim, or tell me what's your brother's name again? Gadi.
The Lords.
The famous what?
The Lords.
Yeah, thank you. So. Okay, you have such a concept of goyim wanting to have Adi Mazeh. They go to Gadi, he's famous in America. They call up, I want a Yiddish milah. You go do a milah, even la halacha, not considered a milah. Today, I mean the halacha by them, the rule by them is to have a milah like 9 to 15, and it's a very, very serious thing. They got to tie these guys up sometimes. It's out of control. Try to take a kid and do that to him. So now they became a shtickle more modern, and they do it, when they're babies. But that was the minhag then. So we have a what? Yeah, that was Yishmael, but they do it. They have it's in between 9 to 15. Says the Gemara. So Mela, I have a limud from Tosh v'Sachar that even if you have a guy that has a milah, he should not eat. Says the Gemara, but why do you consider it b'chlal a milah? So what if he has a milah, but it's not milah? V'ani mulim ninu. Lahalach, it's not considered a milah. But nan, koinim shani nenen el areilim. If a person says, Amud Hana, from anybody in the world that has a arla, mutter ba'areila Yisrael. So the word is, and when we learn the Dora, and we'll see, and Rashi brings it, it's lishne b'nei adam. When a person makes a neder, it's how people speak, the vernacular. So when no one ever calls another Jew an Aral, even if it's known in the world that this guy, all his brothers died from Milah and he doesn't have a Milah, nobody will call him an Aral. That's not how you call a Yid. We call a non-Yid an Aral, even when he has a Milah. So Memela, and it says Mefurish, he's not allowed to benefit because he said, I'm not going to benefit from an Aral. So even if this Arab guy has a Milah, he can't benefit from him. And if he says, I'm not going to benefit from somebody that has a milah, he's permitted to benefit from a guy that has a milah. So you see that it's not considered halachically a milah. Va'asa be'Eli Yisrael. Unbelievable. If a guy says, I'm not going to benefit from anybody that has a milah, that includes a 50-year-old who never got a milah, who's Jewish, because he's considered a yid, not an aral. He's considered a mol. In the vernacular, in the way we speak. Hello. So then what does Tosha B'Sachar come to say? La'asuyi ger shemol v'loi toval. A guy, a ger, he's in the middle of the process of gerus, but he never went to the mikvah. He's in the middle. He did the hard part. He did the milah. The doctor says, wait a few days until it heals. Okay. So he's not an aral. The pasuk says, v'chol aral lo yochol. He's not an aral. He doesn't have a... And he's trying to be a yid. He's not stam doing it as a minig, 9 years old, 15 years old. He's doing it because he wants to be a yid. Then I need a pasuk that he's not allowed to eat korban pesach. Tosha B'Sachar, he's not permitted to eat a korban pesach. And what else? V'katan shenoilad kishu mol. Again, you have a baby that was born without foreskin. He doesn't need a milah. He's also not an aral. No. He cannot eat korban pesach. Why? Because we have machlokes. Somebody is born with a bris milah, in other words, without the foreskin, he already sort of has a bris. So you have to be mativ dam, right? Like Moshe Rabbeinu, you have to be mativ dam. You have to nick it and get a little blood out. Says Gemara. Now, why does Rebbe Eliezer learns the Gzer Shava of Tosha B'Sachar? He holds the Omar Ger Shemal V'loi Taval Ger Malyu. He cannot learn from the words Tosha B'Sachar, this halacha that we just said, of a ger that just had milah and no tefillah, because he holds Ger Shemal V'loi Taval Ger Malyu. I don't need a pasuk to say that he can't eat, because he could eat. Because a baby that's born with a bris doesn't have to do that. So I don't need a pasuk for him either. So those two words are extra. Memela, I use them, says Rebbe Eliezer, for Gzer Shava. Rebbe Eliezer, hi ish my avalei, but since he learns Tosha B'Sachar and he doesn't learn like Rebbe Kiva, so what is he going to do with Rebbe Kiva's pasuk of ish? There's nothing to learn from it. That's how people talk. Ish in those days. Ish. That's just the way that they wrote. That's the way they spoke. Unbelievable sugi Rabbi Yisai. You can think to yourself, what would you say in this case? You have a baby that's 2 days old. So a baby that's 2 days old is usually not going to eat fruits and vegetables. I heard a story. My daughter has a friend who was on a trip and got stuck without any food and water, and the baby was screaming and screaming. She didn't know what to do. An infant. So she fed the baby a banana. And the baby's in the hospital for weeks. The baby almost died from eating a banana. I don't know what that means exactly. I tried to look it up. It's a terrible thing. So a baby can't eat fruit. But what you could do is take some oil of truma and anoint the baby. Rub the baby down. The baby's 2 days old. But it's truma. If you have an arla, you can't eat truma. The problem is, not the problem, the question. Here's the question. Think about it. You have a baby that cannot have a bris milah yet. It's 2 days old. So do we punish it and say, not punish, but is it considered a arla? Or it's considered someone who cannot have a bris milah yet, and therefore could eat truma, could use truma for sicha. What do you say? You don't like the shaila? What?
It's not an arrow. For sure not.
For sure not.
Yeah.
Well, you're wrong. For sure, yes.
Not an arrow.
Here's a big shaila. So let me ask you. Here's a gewaldige shaila. So if he's a arrow, listen to this. If he's a arrow, the halacha is if you have a son that's a arrow, you can't eat a korban pesach. So for anybody that had a baby boy 6 days before Pesach, cannot eat a korban pesach according to you.
He's not an arrow.
Here we're going to have machlokes achronim and tanoim. First, not the first time, but many times. Could you use truma for a baby who's not at the bris yet?
If a baby dies, why do we do a bris? Because I'm going to let him into Shai Shemaim, not a bris. He's an arrow.
I don't know if they won't let him in.
He's a bris.
They do it. I think it's more of a Kabbalistic thing, not because he's mechuyev. Okay, fine. It's before the zman of the mitzvah is a makiv. So it says in the pasuk. Let's take a look at here at the pasuk. It says hima loy kol zachar va'az yikrav la'asoysay. Oh, he fixed something. Givaldik. Oh, that looks much better. Hima loy kol zachar. First you do Mila, and then you could do a Shchita. Yikra of La'asois, it doesn't say anything about eating. But look what it says by Eved. In Pasuk Mem Dalet, that's Pasuk Mem Ches, by the way. I didn't put the number. It comes afterwards. But okay, Pasuk Mem Dalet says, V'chol Eved ish. I just did it in the order of the Gemara. V'chol Eved ish, miknas kesef, umalta oisai, oz yoichal boy. First do Mila on the Eved, then you could eat. So we have two things in green. We have the Shchita and the Achila. The Asiya of the Korban Pesach, shechting it and eating it. What happens if something happens in between? Let's say the baby wasn't available for bris before the Shchita, but it became available after the Shchita, but before the eating. You hear the Shaila? No. Okay, so let's see inside. You have to do a bris milah for your sons before you do Shchita. It seems like from the Pasuk that I could shech the Korban Pesach even if I have a slave that's not mol, as long as they don't eat the Korban Pesach before his mol. So 12 o'clock in the afternoon, chatzos, whatever it is, I go to the Beis Hamikdash, do Shchita. But I have 3 slaves at home that don't have a milah. Don't worry about it. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to go do milah, and then I'm going to eat. Is that okay? It says in the pasuk it's okay. It says don't eat it before. By baby, it doesn't say that. By baby, you have to do the milah for the shchita before after they have milah. So the Gemara says, let's mix it all up. Let's say they're all the same. Babies and avadim are the same. Do not go to the Beis Hamikdash before you do a milah. Don't do any shchita. How do I know that that's the case? You see in the pasuk in red, it says oz, between an eved and a baby. Says the Gemara, what's the difference? There's a case where I went to the Beis Hamikdash, I did shchita, I didn't even have a slave. Why? Because I didn't own it. On the way back, I did shchita. On the way back, somebody says, hey, by the way, you want a good slave for Pesach? Do all the dishes? Fine, I bought the slave. Now I have to do milah on him because I did my korban in the right time. I did it okay. I didn't have a slave then. This is a riddle, Rabbi Yisai. How is it possible that you have a baby that wasn't available for bris milah in the morning? So I shechted my korban Pesach. He wasn't available. I don't have to wait for him to be available, was it? Right after I shechted my korban Pesach at 3 o'clock, all of a sudden my baby's available for bris milah. How is it possible? It's a riddle. There's 5 answers to that. A riddle. The simplest one is he was sick. He was sick in the morning. He couldn't do it. He was just not available, and then he was healed. His fever went down. Boom. Different tirutzim, gewaldige tirutzim. One of them is he was halfway born. His head came out, but his body was in. Let's see. It's a riddle. Again, how is it possible that you have a baby that he was not available for bris milah? You couldn't do a bris milah in the morning. You're supposed to do a bris first thing in the morning. V'sikin. Couldn't do it. He wasn't there. He wasn't available. A eved, you could do that. I could buy a eved in the afternoon, but I cannot buy a child in the afternoon. And he has to be born 7 days earlier. The bris Sunday, yeah. Says the Gemara. So what does it teach me? So the Gemara wants a taina. So you see from here that when a baby's born, that even when the baby's born, he's considered an aral. That's what. So the baby was born after I did shchita. That's what we want to prove. You see from here that even when it's a 1 day old, 1 minute old, it turns into aral. So what's the case? Case number 1 is I did shchita, then I found out the wife gave birth to a boy, and now I can't eat it. I did the shchita beheter. The achila is not better because now I have a 1 hour old baby who's aral. How's it possible? That's impossible. When you have the ability to give him a bris milah, then you have a problem not eating the korban pesach. So in Mela, it's impossible what you're saying, says Rava. So what's the case? Then we have to go back to the real. It's not a case that he was born then, because the Torah wouldn't tell you can't eat a korban pesach if you just had a baby that was born a minute ago. That's impossible. He was sick and he was healed. Says the Gemara, if that's the case, anytime a baby is born and he's healed, you start over, you give him 7 more days. You don't do the bris milah right away. It's as if he was born at the moment that he was healed. So let's say it's Erev Pesach. My baby's sick. He's 8 days old, and he's healed. You don't do the bris then. 7 days later. Oh, says Gemara. Says Gemara. You're right. He was healed 7 days ago, and Zayin Nisan he was healed. And today is then. Oh, if so, so let him have a bris in the morning like any bris. When a kid, different. When a kid is born, you don't do meis leis. You just do the bris in the morning. When a kid is healed, nu halacha. Meis leis, 24 hours times 7. Oh, says Gemara. Oh, sponsored by Moshe Horn in honor of the Gold Star Moti Donut, sponsored anonymously in honor of Eli for the countless lives he's changing. Yishkoyach Gadol. I'll just ask him maybe to change the wording a little bit. It's embarrassing. Okay, I did not write this. I don't know. Okay, but Yishkoyach, HaKaras HaTov, Yishkoyach. Vatani Luda, one time in Shas, he's a chacham, says Rashi, Yoim Havra Asakim Valdai, do the same. Why are you changing? Why are you saying when he's healthy, when he becomes healthy, then you do meis leis? Why? It's like Yivalda, like when he's born, you do it in the morning. You see that you don't need to wait 24 hours. Lie. Not true. It's different. So then, why does it say that you need 7 days? The pshat is you need to wait into the 8th day. That when you wait 7 me'es le'es, that's already into the 8th day. So you're good. Yeah? 7 times 24, you're into the 8th day, and that's when you do the bris. Rapapa Amar. Kigoin the koiv le'ene. I have another reason. If a kid has some sort of infection in the eye, you don't want to give him a bris milah because the two things will compound the problem. It's very dangerous for him. But when he heals, whatever it is, that infection, whatever it hurts him, then you can do the bris immediately. Then you don't say, let's wait 7 days, because it's a minor ailment. If it's a fever, then you have to wait 7 days. But a small thing like an eye ache, then you don't wait. Rapapa Omar, and he became healthy after the shechita of the carbon pesach, but before the achila, and that's why I need a special azaz to tell me that he has to make sure to do bris milah before he eats the carbon pesach. His father and mother were in jail. Why were they in jail? Because Abaya put them in jail yesterday's daf. You remember? This is a joke. Okay, nobody remembers, so it wasn't so funny. Okay. Post edit, a big laugh. Okay. Shkoyach. Now, the father and mother in jail. Father and mother in jail. And then they come out of jail. So first of all, they sent the shliach to do the carbon pesach. Okay. Then they come out of jail. Now they have a baby. They can't eat the carbon pesach. It was shechted perfectly. But they can't eat it. Why? Because now the baby just became available to them. Who is mechuyev to do a milah on a baby? Says Rashi, l'chayra, he doesn't say it, he says it in the words, mutelas aleim. The chiyuv is mutal on the father and the mother. But we know that not to be so accurate. The chiyuv is on the father, not on the mother. So why does Rashi say that the chiyuv is on the mother? So the Maharsha says a beautiful thing here. He says Rashi means to say that because there's no chiyuv on the mother to do milah. But Rashi is saying, since there's no milah on the baby, it's ma'akiv the mother from eating a carbon pesach. She cannot eat the carbon pesach. This halacha of not eating a carbon pesach when you have a kid that doesn't have a milah applies to the mother also. And in Mela, she's mutal, the chiyuv of milah is on her, so that she can eat the carbon pesach. It's a gewaltige chab from the Maharsha. Says the Gemara, Rav Kahana brother Rav Nechemia Omar Kigoin Tumtum Shenikra. Again, we have a kid that we don't know if he's a zachar and a keva. He has skin covering the whole area. So memela, the father's not mechuyev. You don't have to. You have to bring a professional, do a surgery, whatever it is. So, you can't prevent him from bringing carbon pesach because it's not his fault. It's like he's in jail. The kid's in jail. And then all of a sudden the surgeon came, perform the surgery. Now you know he's a zachar. Now you know he's zachar. You have a carbon pesach that's shechted, but he can't eat it because of the psukim that we had azaz. Rav Shravi Omar, he was semi-born. His head came out. When? On Zayin Nisan. And Memela, again, the same idea. His bris is covered. His bris is inside the mother. So maybe he cannot perform a bris milah. It's not his fault. So he went to the Beis HaMikdash and he shechted a carbon Pesach. It was legal. He comes home and he says, Mazel Tov. He came out completely. Oh, but now I have to perform a bris milah right now today. You know why? Because his head came out 7 days ago. He was really born 7 days ago. There's such a mitzvah. Says Gemara Michai, how could a baby like that live? When the Gemara is describing how beautiful childbirth is, every step of the way, mamish every step of the way. Think about it. The baby's in the stomach, how does it live? How does it breathe? It nourishes through the navel. This millisecond he comes out, that closes up, and he starts breathing and eating from his mouth and from his nose. It's unbelievable. It happens in a millisecond. Whatever was open closes, whatever is closed opens. Shil Mali can, I guess, his mouth is open and he's drinking all that fluid, but if his mouth was closed and his nose and everything, he would die from not breathing. So Mela, how does this baby live? The moment his head came out, he should stop. Everything should stop. He has to eat. He can't nourish from his navel, from the cord, because that closes off because his head is out. So what happened exactly? How's he alive? There's a concept from extreme heat, from fever, the body goes into a certain mode and it starts, whatever. I don't know exactly how it works scientifically, but it starts burning the fat and it could live off just extreme heat from fever. By the way, again, I don't know how many days, but they say drowning victims have something similar. Not like that, but their whole body shuts down. They can live, not halavai every drowning victim, but there is a concept that people in cold water could survive many, many hours underwater. The body shuts down. Look it up. Says Gemara, the man, whose fever? We just established on Amud Aleph that if a baby has fever and he recovers from the fever, you have to give him an extra 7 days. So he wouldn't have a bris milah that day anyway. The mother got sick. She had fever. Her extreme heat kept him alive without food. This is all. When does he die and everything? When he doesn't cry. You could say your own drushes here, how crying to the Rebbeinu Shalom keeps you alive, the whole thing, but crying keeps the baby alive, and we're talking about a baby. I didn't have a chance to look it up. Don't leave now. Trust me, you want to stick around for the next 3 minutes. They say a mice about Reb Dov Yafa. Reb Dov Yafa was just nifter, a year ago? It was a tremendous tzaddik from Kfar Hasidim. He went to Din Torah with his wife. His wife, he said, I need to stay up at night with the baby. And she said, I want to stay up with it. It sounds like a bum mice, no? So they went to Din Torah, the dying paskin. You stay up one night, and you stay up one night. And they said that every night that Reb Dov Yafa was up, the baby never cried. That's it. Ma'aseh Shaya. Says the Gemara, Omar, Reb Yochanan Mishum Reb Bena, Orel Mikabel Azah. Oh, I have an Azah thing here. Azah is if you have Tumah, you touch a corpse, you touch a body, you're tummy for 7 days. Part of the process is you have to get sprinkled with the paraduma water. You dip it in. I once did it, and I was probably trying to hit Noam, and I hit Rabbi Schoenberg right in the face. So we're not going to use water now. Remember that? Yeah. Fine. And he didn't say anything. Just went like this. Okay. Oral Makabal Azah. What about somebody that's oral? Could he do Azah, and then later on to do a bris milah, he'll say, oh, I'm tar. Check out this chart over here. We have like this. The 10th day, Yeshua brought Klal Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. That was on the 10th. They only had a bris on the 11th. And then they brought a Korban Pesach on the 14th. So from the time they had a bris till they brought a Korban Pesach, 3-4 days. So when did they do Azah? They're all Tameh. They're burying. How many people died in the Midbar? Everybody died in the Midbar. So they're Kedisha. They're all Tameh. So how could they bring a Korban Pesach when they're Tameh? So obviously, they did Hazah before the 10th. Off the chart somewhere. And the 7th. Because it takes 7 days to do Hazah. It's a 7 day process. You go into the mikvah. After bris. That we're trying to prove that somebody that doesn't have... when did they do it? Before the bris? So it's a right. The Arel could do this. That's what we're trying to prove. Could the Arel use the paraduma water? Because it's only 3 days. It takes 7 days. 3 days later, you do one. 4 days after that, you do another spritzing. Great. So the Gemara, wow, we're running out of time. You can still leave the thing on. 10, so it's 10. The 10th, they didn't do the bris because they were weak. So when they did the Hazah, it's a proof that they did when they are Elim. Says the Gemara, maybe that year they didn't do. Who told you that on the 14th they did a Korban Pesach? It says Mufurish in the pasuk. The Ritva explains. Okay, it says Mufurish in the pasuk. So why do you think differently? Maybe it's talking about other people in Klal Yisrael that did have a bris. We have a concept. So if all of Klal Yisrael are in the Chaver Kedisha, so that year you could do a Korban Pesach when you're talking. You don't have to go to the mikvah. It says Mefurish that they went to the mikvah and then they brought a Korban Pesach. There's 2 mitzvahs, Rabbi Yisai, in Mila. And I'm going to show you what I mean. Mamish. There's the mitzvah of Mila, which is to remove the foreskin. That's the thick skin on the top. But then there's a thinner skin, a membrane underneath, that you must remove, not cut it off. You cut it, and it opens up, and that's called Priya. Those 2, if you do one without the other, you just cut the foreskin, and you don't do Priya, you're not Yoitza Mila. And Avraham Avinu didn't do it. So I want to show you real quickly, while I set up here, I want to show you a Bris Mila Mamish. Here, I'm going to play this, put some volume. Meanwhile, Leiby's going to help me out over here. I want to show you what I did. This was when I was giving shir during COVID in Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel in my house. Mamish and Nebach. I don't know how we did it then, but I did a demonstration. Today we're going to outdo that demonstration by a lot. Hold on, here we go. Here, we have a peanut. Because I didn't understand what this was when I first learned this. I want to share with you what I found. So we're going to do a little bris. It's the wrong bracha, by the way. Okay, hold on. So now I'm going to remove the arla. It's not working out so well. Oh, okay. Fine. This, Rabbi Yisai, is called the Torah. I don't know if you can see. Inside, and in English, it's called corona. Believe it or not, it's called corona. I'm not joking. Now, on that Torah, there's a very, very thin layer of skin. This has nothing to do with the foreskin that we take off, that everybody's familiar with. You see this red thing? That's the foreskin. So the Moil goes like this. With his fingers, with his sharp nail, he removes the Torah. He removes this foreskin. It's also called Arla. But this is the Priya. That's what Priya is. He takes off, and now he exposes the Torah completely. Fine, that's it. Okay, Rabbi Yisai, here we go. You ready?
I'm not volunteering.
That's Priya.
I gotta shut that off. Okay.
Who's volunteering?
Rabbi Yisai, this is the gid. This is the bris. This you don't want to touch. If the knife nicks this, then this kid can never get married again in his life. There was mices of unfortunate when the moil, there was a story I just heard, the moil was drunk. Instead of cutting the right side of the guard, he cut the left side, and the kid, the suing the moil, he can never get married to likahol. So this is going to be the priya. This is the thin layer right over here. And now, I'll do this for a second. This is the thicker. No litzon is bemis. This is for Torah reasons. I'm doing this l'shem shemayim bemis. I'm not kidding. Okay. I made a line here. This is the Torah. This is the ridge, and everything that goes down here tapers down. That's that Torah, and this is the loose foreskin that we have to cut off. So what they do is they take this sterile. Here, maybe. Oh, I have to.
Needs help.
Here. Yeah. Okay. Shkoyach. Okay. What I have to do now is cut this part, this, and not touch this. That's why I have a guard here. Okay. So here goes. I hope I tried this before, and it's very, very, very difficult because this doesn't cut well. But let's try it now.
The baby's crying. Screaming.
Look at this.
Take a very long time. Very good, very good. Very good. Is that your finger? Or what's going on over there?
So, I forgot to put on a glove over here. It's nervayim. It hurts. I'm just controlling myself because we're on. Fine. So now you take this off. Wow, this is disgusting. Fine. Now, there's this. Maybe we'll use this for a second. Ow, that hurt. So now I have to take my sharp nail, and this is where I have to do priya. That I got rid of already, and we're gonna expose the gid like this down, and that's it. So he brings it down. Now, if any of this, where's that bloody mess? If any of this skin remains above that black line, that's what we're going to discuss. It ruins not any. If there's a little bit, the shear we'll learn tomorrow. If any of this remains, then it is 100% not a good milah. Rabboisai, have a wonderful day.
Until now, they wanted you to be a sandal. From now on, they're going to want you to be a mile. That's it, you just graduated.